What is going on YouTube? Running Gun Sports back here with another video. Today is our weekly college football news update. Got a lot of college football news to talk about as usual. It seems like more news coming out of the college football world than the NFL right now. So we're here to cover it as always. And as always as well, if you have not already, please leave a like down below on this video. Subscribe, share it with your friends, and follow our social media pages at runningun_sports on Instagram and at runningunsports on TikTok. And so with that being said, the NBA Finals Game 3 was played on Sunday night, July 11th, with the Milwaukee Bucks defeating the Phoenix Suns 120-100. So very interesting series right now. 2-1 game, and there's series I should say. And so very, very interesting, and we'll see what happens in that series. The next game will be played tomorrow night at 6 p.m. in Milwaukee. Milwaukee is a 4-point favorite, just like last game. So we'll see what happens. No away team has won a game yet, so we'll see what happens there. But let's get right into the video. Four-star running back Nicholas Singleton commits to Penn State. Maybe the next Saquon Barkley. Who knows? Penn State, after a horrible year last year, they're looking to bounce back, and I think that they will do that with four-star running back recruits like Nicholas Singleton, and I think that that's the way to go. And we'll see how long James Franklin stays around. How much longer he has, I don't know. I think another season like last season, he's probably done. So, five-star cornerback A.J. Harris announces his top 13 schools: Georgia, Virginia Tech, Clemson, Ohio State, USC, LSU, Auburn, Alabama, Notre Dame, Texas A&M, Florida, and Miami. Four-star safety Chance Biddle commits to SMU. He's 6 foot, 190 pounds, from Garland, Texas. We were just talking about one of his teammates just last weekend. So also just committed to SMU. So picking up some very talented players from the the city of Garland, Texas. A very talented high school football team, the Garland Owls, that is, and they got some good big time recruits coming out of there. So interesting to see what they'll do in the next chapter of their football careers. Jaden Gibson, four-star wide receiver, announces his top 8 schools: Florida, Miami, Auburn, Baylor, Florida State, Tennessee, South Carolina, and Georgia. Four-star linebacker Demario Tolan commits to LSU. He's 6'3", 215 pounds. And after a really struggling year from the LSU Tigers, especially after winning the national championship, they lost the first 2 games, and that was the first time forever that's happened to a defending national champion. And Coach Ed Orgeron, still recruited very well, I've seen, and a lot of the players that he got that championship with were Les Miles players, of course. And so if there's an argument that he won with Les Miles players and doesn't know how to recruit, I don't necessarily agree with that argument, but I do think that LSU 2019 national championship team was one of the biggest, if not the biggest, one-year wonder teams of all time in college football. I mean, those guys, they were terrible last year. I mean, it was the team that they really needed to beat in the SEC was Alabama. They obviously did that by only 5 points. And then this year, Alabama destroyed them. And, just very interesting. And I don't know what went wrong, but Derek Stingley, in my opinion, is so overrated and does not deserve the hype he is already getting. And, Devontae Smith torched him in the Alabama LSU game, both years really, and he's given up 6 TDs to Devontae Smith in 2 games of covering him. That's terrible. So, we'll see if Demario Tolan can be a stud LSU linebacker like we see in the NFL. Very good linebackers coming out of that college, but right now I'm not believing in Derek Stingley Jr. at all. Five-star defensive end from Thompson High School in Alabaster, Alabama, commits to Alabama. Huge pickup, and as I mentioned last week, as well as Nick Saban can recruit nationally, he does very well in recruiting in the state of Alabama, a state that has a lot of talent, and I think that that's huge for him. And Oregon has picked up a couple of recruits from the state of Alabama, and I think that a lot of those players, if Auburn was a good team, that's in the more of the Auburn side of the state than it is in the Alabama side of the state. But either way, that's Nick Saban probably not happy about that. But at the end of the day, Nick Saban will have a 10 times better recruiting class than Mario Cristobal, his former assistant and co-worker as well. So, four-star defensive lineman Hero Canoe announces his top 9 schools: Alabama, Clemson, Washington, Georgia, Oklahoma, LSU, Texas, USC, and Ohio State. Five-star offensive lineman Devon Campbell announces his top 5 schools: USC, Oklahoma, Texas, LSU, and Alabama. The number 2 player in the class of 2022, Walter Nolan, and in my opinion, the number 1 player in the class of 2022. I think Walter Nolan is far more better than Arch Manning as a football player. Or excuse me, not Arch Manning. Quinn Ewers is a football player. And, tons of people disagree with me on that one, but I think that Quinn Ewers is extremely overrated. And that's my opinion. I don't think that he'll do very well at Ohio State. A lot of the receivers that make the Ohio State team so good will not be there, and I just think that he's not going to do as well as people think he is, and I just don't see the hype in him at all. But the hype that I do see in a young quarterback right now at the high school football level is Arch Manning. That guy is lights out and impresses every time. He looks like he's a 6-year senior, and he's out there as a sophomore last year, a junior this year, and I think he's better than Quinn Ewers. So that's my opinion. And but Walter Nolan announces his top 5 schools: Tennessee, Florida, Georgia, Michigan, and Alabama. Right now, I think that he will probably go to either Michigan or Tennessee. He's been very adamant about his recruiting visits to there. So I think that those are the 2 teams that really have a chance at him. 4-star offensive tackle George Fitzpatrick commits to Ohio State. 4-star athlete Chris Graves commits to Miami. 5-star linebacker Drake Bowen announces his top 12 schools: Notre Dame, Michigan, Tennessee, Clemson, Indiana, Ole Miss, Texas, NC State, Auburn, and Texas A&M, and South Carolina as well. In that list, in LSU, he's 6'2", 215 pounds. 4-star safety Zion Branch announces his top 5 schools: Alabama, Clemson, USC, Oklahoma, and Ohio State, out of Bishop Gorman High School in Las Vegas, Nevada. And this is another situation like JT Talamalu, a guy who comes from a place that doesn't have a winning college football team, consistently winning college football team around, and the state that he's from. And it's very similar to JT Talamalu's case, because from Washington you really have 2 big major Division I schools. You have Washington State and then you have Washington. None of those schools have been that good in the last couple of years. You've had Washington, who've been obviously better than Washington State. I believe they've won 8 straight Apple Cups, and I think that they're still not good. And a guy with the 4-star talent coming out of there wants to play for a championship. And growing up, those type of teams, the Ohio States, the Alabamas, the Clemsons, the Oklahomas, and all those teams have been winning football teams for the time that they've been growing up. And I don't see why you'd want to stay home and play in a crummy bowl game and instead of having a chance to play in a national championship and win a national championship. And so I really think that that same thing here for Zion Branch from Las Vegas, and from Bishop Gorman High School, a very talented high school football program, back-to-back national championships back in 2015, I believe, and some great football talent comes out of there each year. But just like JT Talomalo's case, Nevada really only two big Division One football programs, and none of those schools are in the Power Five, and so obviously UNLV they just suck. They're terrible. I don't think they won a game this year, and but Nevada they were all right this year, but that's clear across the state. Same with Washington State for JT Talamalu. And so I think that is a reason why you could lose guys like that. And, I think Nevada will have a couple of good years. And Carson Strong, very solid quarterback. And Romeo Dobbs, that duo together is going to be very exciting to watch. But I think that, I think that there's just no real national contenders in the state of Nevada. And that's why you see those guys leaving the state of Nevada and states like Washington to go play for teams in the South because they want to win national championships. They want to play for a bowl game and have 6 wins on the season. So, 4-star wide receiver Isaiah Satanga has committed to Oregon. He was a former Texas A&M commit. He chose the Oregon Ducks over USC. Oregon now moves up to the number 7 class in the 2022 team rankings. 5-star quarterback Malachi Nelson announces his top 7 schools. He's 6 foot 4, 190 pounds, quarterback from Los Alamitos, California, ranked the number 5 player in the class of 2023, the number 2 quarterback in the class of 2023. And we talked about one of his teammates just last weekend, but his top 7 schools are Notre Dame, Oklahoma, LSU, Alabama, Florida State, Ohio State, and USC. I think that he will end up going to Notre Dame right now, and Notre Dame, I think, and Oklahoma are the 2 schools, but I could see him going more to Notre Dame. 4-star linebacker Jalen Steen has committed to Notre Dame. He's a top 70 player in the class of 2022. He chose the Fighting Irish over Tennessee, Oklahoma, Oregon, and Texas A&M. Notre Dame now jumps up to the number 2 class in the 2022 team rankings. The Auburn Tigers landed Georgia wide receiver Demetrius Robinson in the transfer portal just on Thursday. Demetrius Robinson still faces felony charges after transfer. The former Georgia wide receiver announced his transfer to Auburn, still will have some legal matters to sort out. He has a felony charge from an accident in February that will follow him to Auburn. Back in February, Robertson was charged with a misdemeanor theft and interference with government property. So we'll see what happens. A huge loss for the Georgia Bulldogs. He used to be the number 1 receiver for that team. Obviously had some legal troubles. Maybe the reason that they didn't care to, try and make him stay. So we'll see what happens there. And that will wrap it up for today's video. If you guys have not already, please leave a like down below, subscribe, and share this with your friends. Thank you guys so much for watching.